Loyalty and confidence on the other person is the most important thing. If you do not have that confidence on your partner that he or she may be cheating on you and I need to check his or her phone.
I was a very responsible child when it came to, thinking how my parents would feel about it. I'd encourage women running kids blogs or mom blogs to, sort of respect their child's privacy.
These are the green flags which makes me take this decision that yes, I want to marry him.
अगर मुझे कहीं दर्द हो रही है, मैं गिरने वाली हूँ, she'd say Panadol खा लो, वापस आके सो जाना, and I'd go back home and later think, am I not prioritizing my child? And all of that. Now I think so much before posting anything on the blog that I some days think I should probably just shut it down.
I feel that when you become a mother and you become a parent, आपका social circle automatically change होना शुरू हो जाता है. If your friends are not in the same phase of life.
You go to birthday parties and they're like, not enough moms but enough Filipinos with their children to attend that party. My physical health has definitely taken a toll and I think that is one thing that I need to work on.
Coming from the corporate perspective, corporate environment में as women, we do see a lot of challenges when we get married and we have kids. The perspective of the organization changes for the woman who is coming back after getting married and after having kids.
Some things never change, and that is probably corporate men, like their mindset.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the In Between Moment podcast. I am your host Saira, and today I have someone who is not just a guest but also a very dear friend. She has been working in the corporate sector for more than 12 years. She is an aspiring fashion designer and occasionally launches her fashion collections online. She's a mother of two and runs a very popular blog by the name of Alaynah's World, where she shares insightful and relatable stories about parenting her son and daughter. Please welcome Asna Shahid. Hi Asna.
Hello, what am I supposed to say? Also this, could I? So what was I supposed to say? That's it?
First of all, thank you so much for finally coming in. And I think this is your first ever podcast where you have been to.
Yeah.
In fact, did you ever give any interviews since you started blogging?
No, not really. No, actually not really. So I was invited to a couple of podcasts around the time you invited me last year. So there was this other one, it was I think it was supposed to air on television that way.
I remember.
But back then I thought, that wasn't the right time. I was expecting and there was a lot going on. So skipped that and also skipped this.
But welcome to your first ever public appearance through my podcast. I am really humbled.
Sweet, actually.
But acha chalo, agar it is the first time you ever came somewhere, I will start from your early childhood. Where you were born, what was your upbringing, where did you live all your life? मुझे तो यही पता है तुम लाहौर में हो. So were you always in Lahore?
So yeah, I was born in Lahore and I've also always been in Lahore ever since, raised in Lahore. I've lived in a joint family growing up, so it was always a very happening place at home with a lot of family around me all the time, and my parents and my brother.
Your brother is younger than you. How many years?
3 years.
3 years younger. Okay. And what type of a relationship you have with your brother?
It's nice. I mean, it's good. We're very close. We probably don't spend enough time now. I mean, everybody's busy and like that, or the conversations are always around random things and all that. But deep inside, I have this security. I'd always know that, he's there to have my back. I think this is one thing, and I think it plays a huge factor because every time if I feel that my world is collapsing or, things are going wrong, वगैरह, so एक थोड़ी सी एक वो comfort होती है ना that, okay, this person is always going to be there. So I know for sure, even if we have any differences, I feel whatever the circumstances, he'll just at least have my back. So yeah. Other than that, it's always been fun. Like I said, when we were growing up, it was like a lot of people around, a lot of cousins, a lot of family, like I said. So it has been a mix of that. We were close, but we also had a lot of other people to, lean on to while growing up.
Yeah. So and I think that reflects in the personality of, because I see myself as someone who has lived life alone. Like, us lihaz se ke, I never lived in a joint family. and we used to live in Karachi, and my parental family was all in Lahore. And my brother is 8 years younger to me, so 8 साल तक तो कोई था ही नहीं. तो वो जब मेरे कज़न सब इकट्ठे होते हैं ना, तो मुझे लगता है यार ये इतना शोर क्यों है, ये कब घर जाएंगे. लेकिन when I see my friends who have been raised in joint families, they are more talkative. They like to enjoy company of a lot of people. So वो obviously when you grow up, वो आपकी personality में बड़ा reflect करता है.
Definitely. I
So
agree with that.
that's how
So
it
I think
is.
with that comes like, a lot of flexibility, adaptability. Again, like you said, you're tolerant to more personalities, people around you, and all of that. So yeah.
Now I'm
that's
thinking
true.
why I'm not so tolerant about different personalities.
So yeah, with my husband also, so he's the only son, and I feel, and they had a independent, sort of family system that way. So I feel that he's different like that. Less tolerant. He'd be like you. He'd say, "Oh God, it's not shore ho raha hai." And not that he minds company and all that, of course, but still.
It's very natural. Again, क्योंकि आपकी upbringing ऐसी होती है ना, आपको आदत नहीं होती. It's just about कि you have not been raised in an environment you are used to. So when you get out of that comfort zone, तो आपको थोड़ा सा odd लगता है. It's not that they don't enjoy it.
So it's like I don't know if I should add it here. So when I got married, I would find it extremely, I don't know, weird, or can't think of a better word right now, but I mean, I'd find their house awfully quiet. Everybody's so composed,
Same.
So in place, everything in place, that way. So I'd be the one, like the conversation starter, so many places. And I did that for a very long time. And I didn't mind. It wasn't a very conscious effort, but I'd get bored. So I'd be like, "Acha, what's up? What are you doing? What are you doing?" With my mother-in-law, with my sister-in-law, for that matter. So it took me a while to really understand that, okay, that is also like, their normal, and this was my normal. Because my normal was like, my dad comes home, regardless of whether I have dinner before, jo bhi chal raha hota tha na. So it's like, you just go, you connect. I would tell my parents, "Aaj ye kiya, ye hua, something bad happened, something." So it was very like vibrant like that, very lively like that. So yeah.
I can so relate to your husband.
Whatever. I've always criticized him for this, so I'm not going to say anything to you.
But yes, that's interesting. So how long you have been married now?
It's going to be 9 years.
Wow, it has been 9 years.
Yeah,
Asna?
it's going to be 9 years.
9 साल हो गए हमें since we worked together.
Yeah, I think I was already married when I joined where we worked together.
Pretty recently married, I would say. Because
it was like a year or the first year or something. So yeah, but it's going to be 9 years. It's still a couple of months, so 8.5.
Long time.
Yes.
Wow.
You don't even realize until you see your kids. That's so true. All these memes and things you see on the social media, sometimes you sit back and you reflect on that, and it's like so true.
So it's been 9 years you are married, but when you were planning to get married, what did you actually see in your life partner at that time that these are the things which clicks to me, or maybe these are the green flags which makes me take this decision that yes, I want to marry him?
We met at a very young age, where I'd say that I don't think you're thinking that much, right? So if I really have to put it or narrow it down, I'd say for you to decide on whether you want to, marry this particular person or stay with a person, I think their honesty, how loyal they are in a relationship, and maybe even on top of that, I'd say, how they respect you and the boundaries that you set. So I think at a very young age, like I said, things could have been very different. I wasn't so clear, and now sometimes we talk about it like, oh my God, thank God we made the right decision, and we're still together, all of that. But I think these were the things. So like I said again, I was very concerned about how is this going to impact my family, my decision? Are my parents going to get hurt? Am I doing the right thing? So there was this constant check and balance in my head about every single decision, step, whatever I took. So I think he really, really, really respected it all. He respected my boundaries. He appreciated my point of view always. He'd give me my space, take things slow, want to involve your parents, all of that. So I think that was very important, because even then, I'd see people rushing through things, boys really pressurizing girls into doing stuff, pressurizing their parents sometimes, going the extra mile. I'm sure you must have seen that too, and it's even more common today.
Yes.
with the youth you interact with, it's like a
हाँ.
whole different level.
हाँ.
आपको लगता था कि आपके time पे people have lost their mind, but kids, that way. But today is a whole different situation. So I think, yeah, these would be the future.
And I think you are absolutely correct when you say that हम जब अपने time phase में होते हैं, the generation we are part of, we think that, oh, what is happening? What type of men are these? What do they think? They are not mature and things like that.
Yeah.
But when you see the next generation, you say, यार हमारी generation से बेहतर थी. So when you decided that you want to tell your parents about someone you like, first of all, how did you start that conversation with your family? I understand that you were already very close to your parents and they were very open and receptive to a lot of things, but deciding something like that, which is a lifelong decision for someone and also at a young stage, a young age, what was their feedback or what was their response to that when you told them?
My parents took it very positively. It was like, so how did I get to the point was basically like, of course, my parents were looking for somebody, to get me married to that way. So I had to, eventually sort of step in. And I also remember Chittor, he was moving abroad and he was going for his master's. So he has done it from Europe and it was going to be a while, till he comes back. So at that point in time, my only concern was that we both had to tell our parents and get this settled, because again, it was going to be a very long distance thing. And considering, of course, I had done my MBA by then and he was then going for his master's. So of course, there was a lot of pressure that way. Not a lot, but every now and then there's going to be like, why don't you marry this person or that person, and people coming over and all that, which was of course frustrating, and I'd panic and I'd worry about what's going to happen in the future. So that's how it started. And he spoke to his parents first. And at that point in time, if I'm being honest, I did sort of push him that, no, he could not leave. And if he was going to leave, then okay, we'd have to end this, because you never know when is he going to come back, what am I going to do? And I couldn't just keep my family hanging like that. Again, it was always about family, right? So it's a lot of family there. But I think it makes a lot of sense also now. At my age, I'm happy that I thought about all this at that age. But yeah, so it was like that. And then I told my parents, they were very okay with it, very receptive to it. Of course, you know how it is. Initially, no parents are going to be like all excited about it, but they were like, okay. So my dad was a bit quiet about it. My mom, again, she's a lot like me that way. So she was very okay about it. Like she'd have a lot of questions and all that. But it was more about meeting the family and then seeing. So I also told them that it's okay. Like, you guys meet them and you see and you decide for me. So yes, I do like him, maybe a lot. But at the same time, I was very open to the discussion if they think that, he's not the right fit.
So for how long he was in Europe?
So he was there for around 2 years. He did his master's. We know each other for a very long time, but we got engaged or married at a decent age. I had done my, master's, so we were in our 20s. So it was.
How was the long distance?
It was good. It was okay. Again, you should ask him. He'd probably give you a better perspective. Like I said, I always had my hands full. I was very okay person when it came to all this. And I think it all also depends on, trusting the other person and the relationship. So I think that was always good. We somehow knew. And if we still talk about it, okay, how, like, he'd never question me, where am I going, where am I coming from, who's dropping me, who's picking me. We never check each other's phone. We find it really weird and petty if even a friend at this age would mention things like that. I'd be rather surprised, right? Like, did I also have to check that? It never occurred to me. So I think that was the comfort or the relationship itself, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because loyalty and confidence on the other person is the most important thing. If you do not have that confidence on your partner that he or she may be cheating on you and I need to check his or her phone, then the basis of your relationship are not strong. You have been doing multiple things throughout this time, like working in the corporate, then launching your fashion brand. Although I know okay on and off karti ho, but still you have a presence and you have very good output as well whenever you launch any collection. Then raising 2 kids, running a blog itself is such a hectic thing to do, because I can never manage running a blog like the way you do. I don't know how do you manage that, but maybe it is a millennial thing or maybe I'm not used to it. But who do you think has been your support system throughout that? Because doing so many things at one time is not easy.
So when it comes to my support system, I think it will be very unfair to narrow it down to only one person. However, if I still have to, it's going to be my mom. So the person who really, really, really tops the list, it's always going to be her. And I think she earned it. It's not like I'm just saying it. I've seen her, and I'm so surprised myself that, how would she take on so much onto her own self just because, I can show up. You can't even imagine how happy she was that I'm coming here today. She's like, oh nice. And it's like she's a very well-aware woman. She's very active on Pinterest, and she's very active on Instagram and this and that. So she's very like that. So it's not like, this is probably not a wow for her that way, or something that she doesn't understand, or something that she's going to be like, अच्छा wow, ये पता नहीं क्या है जो तुम जा रही हो. ऐसा नहीं है. She knows everything. She listens to a lot of podcasts and all that. But it's like she's always there. She's always very positive. And I've seen that it's not only with me. Now my brother is married, and I see how she also, does pretty much the exact same for my bhabhi. So it's like, I really admire that about her. She would never tell me to stop. Never. Like, अगर मुझे कहीं दर्द हो रही है, मैं गिरने वाली हूँ, she'd say Panadol खा लो, वापस आके सो जाना, like, and she'd say, if I'm like, I'm neglecting my kids and all, she's like, no, it's not like that. She'd tell me like 2-3 very quick positive sentences which at least settle very well with me, or have a very deep impact on me, and I'm all ready and up and functioning and running. I think this is something everybody around me, like my friends now, even like sometimes I laugh that none of my conversations is ever complete without mentioning my mom. And I think people around me really acknowledge that, and also they have a lot of feedback about her. So I'd say it's a lot of inspiration, and everything comes from her. Other than that, of course, the second best, closest person would be my husband. So he's been very supportive. Again, I never really thought about it until very recently. In my line of work, I mean, I've always stepped out. I've been working in the corporate sector for a very long time. You meet a lot of different people, right? So a lot of times I met people from a very similar background. But the moment, you look around you, it's people coming from a very different background, people whose husbands actually are competitive like that. If you're doing good, if you're earning better, if you're showing up more, if people are appreciating you more. So I've never felt that around my husband. In fact, I've always seen him also, in all honesty, lifting me up like that, writing scripts for me, editing my blog posts, so it's all all the dirty work. He does it for me, and he does it very happily. Of course, every now and then we fight about it, like, he'd be like, karta to main hu, or matlab you can't even say thank you, because yes, I'd say that's the kind of comfort, or I have, with our relationship, that yes, I hardly ever say thank you, very less often, but it's like I feel that it's his job to help me. Again, but again, मैं ये कह इसलिए सकती हूँ probably because that's how he has treated me all along. So I haven't seen different. I haven't experienced anything different. I thought this was normal, just like I thought what my parents did with me was normal, and it took me all these years to really understand that no, the concept of broken families, moms not taking care of your kids, moms not volunteering to babysit your child. This was very new to me. I'd say I was very naive when it came to all this. So again, with my husband also, I'd say mashallah, I've been very blessed that way. कि मुझे ऐसा कभी experience नहीं करना पड़ा कि वो मुझे बोल रहे हैं क्या जरूरत है जाने की, you're not home on Saturdays even. If I was home on Saturdays, I'd schedule a vlog video. And then I also drive him crazy that, you distract the child, help me somehow. So, bichara, like I'd pull him still. So, not only was I not there myself that way, I also made him work. So, I really appreciate all of that deep down.
Now I feel that I should have invited him as well.
Yeah, you should have.
So that he could have shared his perspective about being part of the vlog at the back end.
And like I've spoken about the two of them so much, I'd also like to speak about my very different relationship, I'd say, which is with my brother. So my brother, like you asked, initially, okay, how has my relationship been? So like I said, it's always been good. It's been nice, fun. We've had a good childhood that way. But when it comes to my children, I've never seen somebody so involved in your sister's children. So in their sister's children, sorry. It's not only about loving them, especially Alaynah, it's also about being present for her and for me. So you won't believe this, when I had Alaynah, so during the initial 40 days, very often my brother would take her away at night. He'd say, "Tum so jao."
अच्छा.
It's like so cute, right? And so
हाँ.
unreal. And I'd be like, "Kaise karoge?" He was younger than me. I was around 26, 7. So he was like, what, a 23-year-old guy. And he'd say, "Nini, mujhe de do." And he'd take her. And he'd very happily keep her. And, you know, he has this whole, I think, उसके पास पता नहीं कितना डेटा होगा मेरी बेटी की वीडियो की. He's seen more firsts, maybe, or just as many firsts with him as with us. So I think that is a very big positive and something that we should talk about. I mean, he'd actually take her away, he'd take her out as well. He'd say, "Kicha, say if I'm going shopping, he'd keep her. If my mom is really, you know, exhausted from everything, he'd do that. He'd feed her sometimes, and he'd actually put her to sleep, which was amazing. She was a colic baby, and it was insane putting her to sleep.
Wow.
तो वो कहता था ठीक है कोई बात नहीं जाओ सो जाओ.
His wife would be so happy. He was already trained.
Again, I don't know. I doubt that he doesn't have kids right now.
Okay.
And I'd also now like to quickly add that it turned out to be pleasantly surprising again that this time around with my second born, my brother was married and things were different, of course. Now I live more at my place. He gets to connect lesser that way. My bhabhi, again, she's been such a support. I mean, yeah, I don't know how much they love me, I'll be honest, but they love my children actually like their own. It's not only about showing up only, you know, in the good times and all that. She also showed up when it was difficult for me to do things, when it was like I was having a difficult time. She doesn't have kids. She has no idea probably. At my age, I can comment better on, you know, my cycle with Alaynah and this and that, my journey with Alaynah. So she did not. But and also I felt that I was a little, you know, let's see if my brother is actually going to be that involved this time as well. But he was. And this time around, they both will take him. So
That's so
my son,
sweet.
his name is Nahid.
But I think that's very natural because my brother has a daughter, and before he had any child, I never felt that way for a child like I do for her. And because मेरी अम्मी और मेरी जो cousin है मेरे मामू की बेटी, like फुप्पो and भतीजी का relationship, and they were very close, and I always used to see them. My mummy used to love her the way she loves me, and bringing stuff, whatever she brings for me, she will bring the same things for her. But I could never resonate with it. Now that my brother has a daughter, and I go and meet him, and I spend time with Ira. And now, in fact, I was talking to my cousin last night. She messaged me and she said, I was remembering Puppo. And I said, I can so relate to you now, what type of relationship you have with my mother, because now I can sense that with Ira. क्योंकि मैं जिस तरह उसको मिस करती हूँ, the way I feel happy when I'm with her, the way I try to take care of her, the way I play with her, I've never played with any child. So I think was naturally शायद,
you know, you'd see examples where people are not so ready to take on, you know, like I said, on the difficult days or during the difficult phases of life. Maybe it's something very small where all I needed was just like a 2-hour sleep. But you know, somebody showing up then, somebody taking away a crying baby or a sick baby or telling you it's going to be okay, I think that really contributes. So that's where that's why I mentioned my bhabhi also, because I've seen her like. Yeah, I did not expect this from her. I'll be honest, because you know, you're young, you just got married, you have too many things on your plate, that way as well, and you're not ready maybe. But how she loved him, and Alaynah also has a wonderful relationship with both of them. Like, again, I'm not sure how much they love me, but one thing I know for sure is like they love my kids like I've never seen elsewhere. Yeah. I'm not exaggerating. Probably still,
I'm sure you are not exaggerating.
I'm probably still like sharing 70% of it, but I'm not exaggerating that way.
That's
so
really
really
sweet.
Nice.
I would have asked you touch wood, but there is no wood, right?
No, it's okay. Yeah. But yeah, and I sometimes worry about it as well. Again, in all honesty, I sometimes worry about it because I'm like, oh my God, I hope this doesn't change. But you know, if you really want to talk about that side of the relationship, that I'm sure, you know, it takes a lot of give and take. So where they give me the space or the comfort or the love, I also try to be mindfully present, mindfully step back, you know, all of that. So it's like that's how you grow in your relationships. It's not easy.
I would also like to know, you mentioned about your friendships and the role of your friends. How that has been. Like, do you feel that after getting married, the role of your friends changed, or your relationship with your friends changed, or maybe you made new friends? Because I feel that when you become a mother and you become a parent, आपका social circle automatically change होना शुरू हो जाता है if your friends are not in the same phase of life. कुछ तो ऐसा होता है कि आप नॉर्मली आपके सब फ्रेंड्स की शादियां एक ही टाइम पे हो रही होती हैं एंड एवरीवन इज एक्सपेक्टिंग एंड एवरीवन इज हैविंग चिल्ड्रन एट द सेम टाइम, बट एट टाइम्स कुछ फ्रेंड्स के साथ ऐसा नहीं होता, दे आर ऑन अ डिफरेंट पाथ ऑल टुगेदर. सो आर यू स्टिल इन कॉन्टैक्ट विद those friends who were there at that time when you were young? And I'm sure कि while you started your blog and you have been an influencer, उसमें भी you would have made new friends.
I was lucky and fell in the second category. We pretty much got married together, all of my friends, most of my friends. So very few of my friends were married before me. Then, I think things kept happening. For example, I got engaged earlier. Some of my very close friends were not engaged back then. And then very soon, soon after they were engaged, and some got married before me and some right after me. So actually, the year I got married, it was mostly also like we were getting married. Like one of us had a wedding every 2 months. Every 2 months, we'd have a very close wedding to attend. So I was the second last on the list, and then it was one of my very close friends. You probably see her a lot on the blog as well, but yeah. So it has been very good like that. And somehow I'd say that it turned out pretty nice that way. It has never really been a struggle. As you grow up, it's nice to embrace change. It's also nice to positively let go of certain friendships, or just sort of accept that things are not the same during every phase of life. So I haven't really let go of any of my friendships that way, I'd say. But at the same time, yes, some of my friends I hardly meet now. Actually, most of them now. I think life is such, even though we're in the same phase of our lives, pretty much all of us are married, got married around the same time. Most of my friends have their first child, had their first child around the time I had Alaynah. So it's really nice to have, my best friend's daughter, be Alaynah's best friend that way. So it's really very satisfying that way. So we have a good social circle that way. We have a good network, good number of people, or a nice circle to fall back on, I'd say. But at the same time, yes, we don't meet like we used to. We don't hang out like we used to. The conversations have changed. We want to meet with our children. We meet with our kids, and then we're all like, oh my God, we shouldn't have. So all of that is like, there.
How do you define friendship? Like, what is the criteria to make a friend for you? What do you see in a friend?
Like I said, I can be friends with anybody. I'm very easy to connect with like that. But yeah, at this age, I'd say that I'd like to connect with people who are more real. I'd say real, easy to connect to, not fake that way, not blabbering about random things, and people who are honest, people. I don't mind making friends from very different backgrounds. I think I have that already in my circle. So when I talk about backgrounds, it's like a lot of my friends are also not working at all. Also, some of my best friends, they're not working at all. By the way, this also happened. So when I had Alaynah, I was the only one left working. Everybody was working before. We expected together, and other than a few friends that I made at work and who were from LAC where I was from and all that, but a lot of them quit. And when we would then meet, people would say that no, I prioritized my child. And I'd go back home and later think, am I not prioritizing my child? And all of that. But also, I think I did not give up. I had a lot going on in my professional career back then. There were a lot of changes. Jahan pe I was struggling a lot personally, becoming a new mom, from feeding my child to raising her to leaving her with my parents to showing up at work on time. So there was a lot going on. So in between all of that, a lot of my friends gave up on their careers. They said they were taking a break and all that. So cutting it very short, it was a difficult time for me like that. I felt I could not connect to anybody, and I felt that they had a very different journey. But it sort of started showing. After 4 or 5 months, they were super frustrated. They wanted to step out of the house. They wanted to come back to the workforce. It was very difficult again for them to do that. A lot of them made it through. They are now working, but nobody could. If I'm not wrong, I don't think anybody could make it back to a full-time corporate job after their break.
Do you think that they were not able to come back on a full-time basis because they had less opportunities, or they were not able to cope up?
Both. I'd say both. Not everybody had a very strong support system. Not every mom or mother-in-law was willing to really take on the responsibility of having the child for like 9 to 10 hours a day. So much happens in between, right? So that Not every husband was that accommodating. I've also seen, I'd just like to add that I see men a lot from my close circle now as well. People expect their, wives to work. People expect them to do good. People expect them to contribute financially, but people are not supportive enough. They're not like the environment that they have. It's not conducive enough. I mean, I'm doing all of this because I have the leverage to really do that. And I say that now. I did not understand this before, but I also tell my friends, my colleagues, sometimes it's really nice. I'm not gloating that way, but it's really nice and cute when my friends, especially my old friends, would, give examples that if Asna can do it, why can't you? Like, so initially I'd laugh at it when somebody would say this, and then, a few of my friends actually said it like loud and clear. They were like, no, I tell my wife that you're doing so good, tum itna kuch kar leti ho, and, but then I've now, when I realized, okay, where this was coming from, I also started correcting them. Then Asna's husband is also doing a lot, like you just mentioned yourself. Raising Alaynah again, I'm sure you'd want to talk about it later. But again, how she has turned out, I'd definitely give a lot of credit to my husband. Where I wasn't good, he was. Where I'd want to sleep, he'd let me. Where I'd cry, he'd tell me it's okay. He won't tell me कि हाँ homework नहीं हुआ तो तुम्हारी गलती है. He would say हमारी गलती है. Like maybe we can do this like this.
Let's talk about Alaynah's world. How did the blog start?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is very random, and it's like I did not start the blog. My husband did. So he told me he's making a blog. Alaynah turned 1 back then, and on her first birthday, he made a blog, and he also made a post. I was like, "Acha, what are you doing?" And I was never I did not know a lot about blogging back then. And other than that, also I wasn't so sure if I wanted to do that, which I still am not. Oh. But yeah, but he was, and he said no, it's a lot of fun. He writes really well, so I do too, relatively, but I'd still rank him higher when it comes to writing, when it comes to the fun stuff and all that. So our friends can probably clearly tell, who's written that post or who's posting that post.
I was about to ask how much of the content is written by you and how much is the content
by
is written
now,
by him?
it's like, I'd say 80% me. And according to my husband, I've really changed what it was supposed to be. But I think now it's more relatable.
When you started the blog back then, at that time, he used to write more?
Yeah. At that time, I had no time. So at that time, so he started the blog. He made a blog. He said its name is Alaynah's World. I was like, okay, it was her first birthday. He made the first post as well. It was really cute and funny. I read it and I was like, okay, fine, let's just say it. I did not know where we were heading with it. It was something very sort of personal, I'd say. And it wasn't something we thought that, that we wanted to earn from it, or whether we wanted to grow, or how, or where we wanted to take it. There were no goals, I'd say, or at least we did not discuss any of those. As a mom and as a very sort of connected mom again, or a very emotional mom also, I was never even comfortable with the idea. So as I started growing, you must have noticed I frequently disappear from my blog. So I've taken really long breaks, वगैरह. So she's always very active relatively back then, because then I would say, अच्छा ये बना लिया है आपने, so what are you going to do about it? Where's the next post? When are you going to post? How does it work? And all of that. So he would do it. He was like, oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. And he'd put up another post and he'd put up another post. His stance was more like, speaking from Alaynah's mind. So his posts, the initial posts on the blog were also like, Alaynah's perspective on things. They were usually very funny. I remember people at work also coming to me, whatever little number of people would, following me back then on the blog would come and say, oh my God, you're hilarious that way. And also you write so well. And if you remember, we worked together for a little. I'd always say, it's not me, it's my husband. And then they would say, acha waah yaar, aapke to husband bhi bahut cool hai. Like the boys would say that. And I remember, all of that. And then I think I was never very regular. It was very simple. I also, if you remember, I tell people, okay, acha, mujhe follow kar lo. Give me a shout out here and there. I did not really know how to run it. But it was only until COVID happened that I was at home. And I actually got to spend time with Alaynah. And I started discovering for my own self also, like how cute she was and how different she was when it came to speaking her mind at a very young age. She was only 1 year old, when I started posting those videos where she was so vocal about things, so expressive about things and all that. So that's when I kind of took over, because I was working from home for most part of that year, maybe you could say. And then I started posting things, which my mind as a mom I'd see, then it was my reflection of motherhood and my life with Alaynah, other than just, the happy moments or the funny moments and all that. So I think that's where it also got a bit relatable, and people would start dropping messages to me. Okay, how is she talking? How did you teach her to walk already? How did you teach her to talk already? And all of that. So I think the relatability element came, of course, from the mom. And also, you must have noticed and seen in Pakistan, particularly, things that require you to be mindful, or maybe elsewhere around the world also, things that require you to be mindful, things that require you to study, things that require you to read, invest in your children, positive parenting. Not many people are up for it, not many people understand it, and not many people to this date are acceptive of it, I'd say. They want their child to be confident like Alaynah. They're not ready to be patient like me, or
patient,
my husband,
and also
or my
giving that much of
time, attention.
Yes.
They prefer sleeping. They put their kids to sleep and then go out. I see that a lot. And even in people in my own circle, no offense to anybody, everybody has their own preferences, but sometimes now you go to birthday parties and they're like, not enough moms, but enough Filipinos with their children to attend that party. And it used to be very surprising at times. I mean, I've had this discussion with my friends as well. So, I mean, things have changed a lot that way. And in that way, my blog still, my audience is a niche still, because I try not to deviate from that. Sometimes it's frustrating. You don't grow at that pace. You've seen people start off and then grow. But then I discuss this again, if I discuss it with a friend, or if I discuss it with my husband would have a more composed answer. He'd say that, you're not selling what, they are selling. Again, no offense to anybody, honestly. To each their own. Har kisi ki apni marzi hai, apna mindset hai, apna comfort hai. If you're comfortable with it, pretty good. So I would want you to know Alaynah like you know her today. Like, when people would come and comment on her confidence, and comment on her, sort of how headstrong she is, how clear her thoughts are, I think
Strong
I started
decision making.
So I started liking that. I take her to these different classes also, like, shuru mein, all those mom-daughter classes. Sometimes my husband would do the mom-daughter classes, by the way. Mom wasn't there, so, that's also there. But we used to take her there and everything. So all her teachers, everybody would say it. They would acknowledge that, ki I would make her read a lot of books at home. Yeah. So that would reflect in that class. She would be more understanding. She would have more to add to the conversations and all that at a very young age. So coming back, like, narrowing it down again, I'd say that I wanted to, and I still want to stand by, what I post on my blog. In fact, over the last 2 years, ever since she turned 5, I've been even more mindful. And I'm an overthinker overall as a personality. So it's been crazy. Like, now I think so much before posting anything on the blog that I some days think I should probably just shut it down. It's that.
No, don't shut it down. I'm sure a lot of women can relate to your blog because it's natural and it's organic, and it is not there because you want followers or you want to make money out of it. That's why it looks very real, and Alaynah looks real, and the whole content is very relatable. When I remember you from the time when we were working together, and then looking at you raising your daughter, I felt like
they were two different people.
They are two different people altogether. What do you think is similar to what your parents raised you the way you were? Did you use certain ways or techniques to raise Alaynah? And what are the things you think you did different from your parents, probably, which you thought that those things were not there when you were being raised, and you need to do certain things for your daughter as well?
I'd say when it comes to similarities between how my parents raised me and how we are raising Alaynah, I think the biggest thing, and which is probably the most important, is being present for my child. So I think I really made it a point, and like I said, when I wasn't there, my husband was. When he wasn't there, my mother was. Again, a lot of credit goes to my mom, because I did not know how to be a mom. So she was so particular about, she actually taught me that also. Like, in a way, she would know what Alaynah needs to watch on TV. She would know what Alaynah needs to eat. I was at work for most part of those days. Initially, when I went back to my workplace after having Alaynah, things were very chaotic there. We're not talking about, all the pressure of women coming back to work from maternity, but it's crazy, particularly in our country, particularly in the corporate sector. So when I went back, I had no, I'd say मुझे कोई उस तरह से होश भी नहीं थी कि मेरे घर पे क्या है. It was crazy difficult. By the time I would come home, all my child was left to do was go to bed. Yeah. So I again give a lot of credit to my mother. She was very particular. She'd say things which would make me laugh. Like she'd say, okay, she's watching these cartoons because these cartoons are not nice. And she would say that she's watching these all those British shows. Because she'd say that she'd learn how to talk like this. I was like, wow, how did you think of it like that? And my mom would give me that look, okay, isn't it so basic? And no, it wasn't. It wasn't basic for me. I learned. And that's when I learned, okay, I have to be aware of all of this. This is important. These are conscious decisions that I had to make around everything surrounding my child. So I think that was very similar. And also, like I said, my parents would always be very open. मुझे नहीं याद आता कभी मुझे उस तरह से डांट पड़ी हो, मारें पड़ी हो, कि मुझे डांट पड़ी है, इससे क्यों किया है. I was never told to shut my feelings. My mom particularly was very, very expressive. My dad, being I always say a 90s dad. So he's not probably like my husband, not at all like my husband. Very different like that. So he appeared to be very strict, very unapproachable, unreachable and all that. He'd appear to be like that, but only as you grow up, or as I now see people also talk about their parents, I see that even then he was very reachable still. And he would repeatedly endorse that, अगर आपसे कोई गलत चीज़ हो गई है, तो you have to tell me. Don't ever worry about कि तुम्हारे parents को बुरा लगेगा, तुम्हारे parents डांटेंगे. I especially remember when my mom was traveling a few times. My maternal side of the family is based in US, so my mom would go frequently. Again, she's a mother like me. She never wanted to leave us behind and all that. But my grandparents were frequently sick, and looking at the circumstances, a few times she had to travel alone. So I experienced my dad in a very different way. He was a whole different person also. He tried to keep that, aise na karo, waise na karo, the angry dad element to it. But he'd also keep reinforcing this. If somebody ever tells you कि मैं तुम्हारे parents को बता दूंगा, तो तुम पहले आके बता देना, and all of that. So I think these affirmations, and this is what made me also, when you ask, how did I tell them that I liked somebody, or I think I can also go back to them today and tell them I made a mistake. I am that confident about them. And I think that's what I'd summarize it with, and that's what I am with Alaynah, and so is my husband.
Yeah. So, and you were talking about your father. I think, and this is my personal experience, maybe you also experienced that. When I was a child, I used to feel that my father is not approachable. And they were like, it's a different phase hota hai. I think aap chote hote hain, probably fathers of that time also did not know how to interact with children, and they are more focused towards their work, and they are coming home late, children are sleeping early. Up to dynamics bhi change ho gaye.
I'd also like to add that the family dynamics. So considering we all lived together, right? So a lot of people back then also lived in, joint families. At least in-laws hote the. So I think men back then also took a lot of pressure there.
Yes.
Okay, helping out their wives, taking care of the children, feeding me. Maybe, I also feel that बहुत ज़्यादा इसलिए भी there was this reluctance. Even if they wanted to, they wouldn't want to be. Or all of this feminism, empowerment, this and that. I think it's relatively new. People back then may have felt those emotions, but there was a lot of pressure when it comes, from the society.
Because I've seen my father, I saw my relationship with my father changing as I started growing, and especially when I got married.
Yeah, same.
जब मेरी शादी हो गई and I moved to Lahore, and he was in Karachi, and whenever I used to go to Karachi and spend time with him, he used to make special effort to come and see me, even if I'm at work, or if I'm staying, for example, in a hotel, because I have to be with the team and everyone, and I do not want to come home and stay with him. He will come to the hotel every night when I'm back from work, and he will sit with me, and he will be talking with me about different things, which he never talked to me before.
I'd still say that he was probably there and noticing all of that. He just never probably, brought it to the table for discussion. I think that is what is different between the millennial fathers, right? That's how they are different. I think they're more open.
They are more
participative, showing up to your child's parent-teacher meetings for that matter, their sports days and all that. I remember my dad would sometimes come and sometimes he would not.
You mentioned about that you faced a lot of challenges while you got married and then had kids and then you were working. Obviously, blog started on the way. How did you cope up with all that? Like, what do you feel needs to be there to manage all that? I understand that support system needs to be there as well, but coming from the corporate perspective, कि corporate environment में as women we do see a lot of challenges when we get married and we have kids. The perspective of the organization changes for the woman who is coming back after getting married and after having kids. Did you face something like that?
Some things never change, and that is probably corporate men, like their mindsets, you know. So I understand that now things have changed and people are more open to, you know, having these discussions. Organizations are more accommodating when it comes to, you know, women-centric policies, the whole diversity and inclusion initiatives. I think they've really done some work for us. But having said that, I think the underlying, you know, the thought process, वो बहुत नीचे दिमाग के अंदर जाके जो है, I think it's still the same. It's easy to say that no, we're very open, we're very accommodating, we're very women-centric, we want to have that gender equality and all that. But when it really comes to facilitating women, other than the, you know, the socials and the pictures and, you know, letting them do the talking, I think this is where the change needs to come. I had to work really hard. Really hard. I probably did not give enough credit to myself back then, but now when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, how did I do it? And how se bhi zyada I now think about it, like, why did I torture myself? Honestly, to a point where I'd have blackouts, like real blackouts. If you remember, I used to do these assessment centers at work, right? So I was leading this whole campaign, not leading back then probably, not back then, but still, like, I was an active participant of those and I was responsible for most of the work. So I remember on the day of my last assessment center, I come back to work, I was very happy actually. I did something, I did it, my manager was pretty happy, I think everybody else was pretty happy, I was getting the recognition, things were starting to settle down. And that is when I faced my first blackout because I was done with life. All my energy, you know, physically also and mentally also, I'd been up and struggling and juggling and all of that, so it had to show up somewhere. And that is when, you know, suddenly everything went black for real, and I got so scared. And that's when I actually took a step back and I started thinking, why, what, when, how? Like, I was so scared that way. So having said that, if you'd ask me if after, like I said, I started reflecting only recently, okay, why? So, and how? So I think when it comes to how, or actually both aspects, I'd say I do not give up easily. And that is something people at work have said to me. That is also something my husband or my mom also, again, two people who really contribute to my work life that way, might acknowledge to it. I don't give up. I don't like giving up. And giving up really gives me a very different kind of anxiety. I think it took me all these years to actually understand this. It also probably took my social circle or my friends, particularly friends who've been there from the start, who saw me. I think now when they say things, like I said, about me like this, it makes a lot of sense because they probably saw me. So while I was struggling, I did not pay a lot of attention to my surroundings like I usually don't. So I think now, it all makes sense. I can, you know, see it. So it was that. It was mostly being resilient. I also feel that I've been raised to be very positive about things. Sometimes slightly stupidly positive as well. Like, you know, I'd like to still go with the positive. You know, even if I can see कि अच्छा बहुत मुश्किल होने वाला है ऐसे वैसे, I'd still say कि अच्छा चलो कोई बात नहीं, I came out of that and come out of this as well. So I think that played a huge part, and I think that's what I'd like to say also. Okay, if you ever want to achieve something, the first step should be looking for the positives in your goal, in the journey, you know, all of that. If you start focusing on the negatives early on, you'd never take the next few steps.
But then, talking about that, you have gone through so much and there's a lot of pressure of doing so many things, and obviously when you do not give up easily, I think then you also try to do things in the best possible ways. How do you manage to take care of yourself?
I don't. And that is something I've realized just now. So again, I think that is, okay, as I was never good at taking care of myself when it comes to my physical health, particularly. That is one thing I did not take from my parents, and particularly my mom again. So I now tell her, you know, like, I've become pretty much like you, but why didn't I do this? Like, mere se nahi hota. So if I have to take vitamins, I'd forget. If I have to show up at a doctor, go to a doctor, I won't. I'll prioritize something else. I think maybe later. So I really, I never did that. And again, I can see that now. So after my second born, I can visibly see how difficult it's getting for me to manage everything with the physical strength and the mental load. Of course, people say, and you read all of that, okay, one child is 1, 2 is 4, 2 is 5, 2 is 10. So that's probably also true. I'm still experiencing it. It's too soon to say. But having said that, yes, my physical health has definitely taken a toll. And I think that is one thing that I need to work on. And I think I am at a point where I started to mindfully step back. So जैसे मैंने जो हर जगह पहुंचना होता है ना, एक सैटरडे में 3 दिन, एक दिन में तीनों ही बर्थडेज जानी, तीनों फ्रेंड्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, तीनों के बच्चे इंपॉर्टेंट है, ऐसे नहीं होता प्रैक्टिकली स्पीकिंग. सो ये एक सैटरडे हो सकता है, हर सैटरडे नहीं हो सकता. So all of that. I started, I'd say, counseling myself before I end up at a therapist, which also I don't mind, consulting one maybe soon. But having said that, I think that's what I've started doing. So whatever little time I now get, I try to make my to-do list. I try to step back. I've started saying no to my friends. जैसे कि नहीं आ सकती ना मैं सैटरडे को क्योंकि मैंने कहीं और जाना है. So it's okay. I've started telling myself first that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to prioritize myself, even when it comes to my children, for that matter. So अगर मैं खुद ही ठीक नहीं होंगी, अब मैंने ये सोचा है. So if I'm struggling so much with my physical health, so the kids that I'm really going crazy for, I now think, hey, who's going to do it then?
Yes.
So instead of just losing myself altogether, I think I need to.
No matter how many people you have around, you need to be there for your kids. And to be there for them, you need to first be there for yourself.
Yeah, I think, you said it right. So that's something which I think I never realized. And I also think it hits you in your 30s.
So Alaynah is a child of an era which is a digital era of the world. And she is a blogger technically as well. How do you set boundaries for her on social media? Because she has been on the platform since she was, I think, 1 year old probably. And it's now she's, mashallah, B7. How you have made sure to keep certain things about her private? कोई guidelines, कोई tools, क्या सोचती हो उस बारे में कि किस तरह से you have set those boundaries for her?
Initially, I had no clue what we were doing, and I grew slowly. But again, I have a very defined niche. And I also started getting work. I got a chance to actually work with some of the best, sort of brands out there, even with very little following. Like when I was around 10, 15K, I have pretty much worked with a lot of, corporate brands like Nestle, P&G, Unilever, all of that. And a lot of big fashion brands as well, like Sapphire, Maria B, Cross Stitch. So it happened very quickly, and again, I did not know where I was heading or what I was doing. Plus, Alaynah was a baby back then. A lot of times, initially, I would only post Alaynah. I wasn't even, by the way, I was never comfortable with putting up my picture. I think 2 million times.
हाँ.
मैं अपनी क्यों लगाया ऐसे वैसे कोई क्या सोचेगा ये क्या होगा वो क्या होगा. So it was probably a journey of self discovery on that end for myself as well. So having said that, I think, but I do believe in boundaries. And like I mentioned, I'm not criticizing everybody, but I tried to be mindful of what I'm projecting, what all I'm sharing. I don't think I now don't share a lot of things about Alaynah. If you may have noticed, I put up stories only involving Alaynah, very less now. Her conversations, her personal stuff that she talks to me about. If I start posting all of those, you would see how I'd grow. Because with that, if she was so, sort of present as a child when it comes to being spontaneous, when it comes to being witty and all that, imagine what she is like now, right now. But I intentionally and mindfully try to, hide all of that. I'd also be more careful. I have been more careful on these things because of Nazar. I'm a firm believer, hoti to hai, kahin na kahin, some point in time. And secondly, also, now that she's growing up, what am I teaching her? The standards that I set today is what she's going to follow as she grows up. So if when I started working with a lot of fashion brands again, I went through it. It was fun. It turned out to be very easy for me also. I started showing up in the videos, like all the Mummy and Me collaborations. I thought of it as a bonding time for me and Alaynah as well. I started liking the videos. I got very comfortable with it. But that is when I realized that, oh my God, what am I even doing? And is this something that I want her to do? I'm not saying that it's something bad entirely, but yes, now that she's going to turn 7, maybe, I would not want her to keep doing this. I would not appreciate Alaynah posing around here and there, just focusing on taking good pictures, just focusing on, um, up on her appearances. How is she? And the good thing is she's not aware of all of this.
Okay.
So even compared to a lot of kids her age, be it my friends' kids or be it the school or people you see on the social media as well, you could probably also see there's this element where to her personality where she's also like very simple and she's also a child still. So where I love dressing her up and where she loves dressing herself up now, she's probably took it from me, but she's like really into it now. But you'd also see that, her body language, the faces that she makes in front of the camera, how she's always shy about it. I hope I don't know, I'm finding it difficult to find the right words, but I think I'm actually happy to say that, it's still there. So I would want to preserve her childhood. I would not want it to be like, she's really out there, people are recognizing her. Full wo kisi aur hi tangent mein chali gayi hai. I would like her to study. I'd like her to focus on these kind of things first. It's nice to have a platform, yes, but I think I mindfully slowed down. So I've said no to a lot of collaborations over the last 1 year. Some of my best paying, I'd say, partners and some of my most favorite brands, only because I thought I needed some time to myself to first think of what I want to set as, a benchmark. अगर मैं ही सारा दिन उसकी videos बना के again इस तरह से लगाती रहूँगी and all that, so I'm going to normalize things for her, right? And I do not want to do that. Not now. When she's maybe 18, 17, 16, whatever, if she then wants to go into fashion blogging, whatever, I think I might support her. Let's see. Like, I'd still want her to have some boundaries around it. I'm conservative like that. And I'd like to say it and I'm quite okay with it. So I'd like for her to still have those boundaries. But again, मैं अभी से नहीं ये set करना चाहिए कि this is all she thrives on. कि उसकी आज picture लगी है कि नहीं and she's pouting and all that. So I'd like my blog to also reflect that. She should look her age, she should look her real self, and it should not impact her own personality, being popular at school. Also, by the way, it could backfire as well, right? So it's not only being popular for the good stuff at school, there's a lot of bullying around it as well. Right. So I'd say that, I'd encourage women running kids blogs or mom blogs to, sort of respect their child's privacy. I'm not so comfortable कि मैंने मतलब ये खाया, ये मैंने सांस लिया है, ये मेरे husband ने मेरे लिए अच्छा किया. I think that's too personal. Some things are not for the gram, like, that way. Yes. I think that's the beauty of life. It shouldn't be. Not everything is commercial. Not everything is up for sale. I'd say that. Whatever I still sell, again, I would still want to curate it even more. I now think कि मैं जो ये लगा रही हूँ, how am I adding value to anybody who's reading it, to their lives, to the world out there. Again, I'm not in a rush to earn money from it, which is, I think it's a perk for me. Because मेरा तो वो soul earning वाला channel वो नहीं है. It's like a cherry on the top. If I earn something from the blog, good. If I don't, I'm also good with that. I want her, even if she takes over this blog, I'm guessing you're going to ask me, there's a lot of people do, that are you just going to hand it to her? So no. Firstly, I'm not going to hand it to her. Not anytime soon. Secondly, even when I do hand it to her, my achievement would be that she takes it over for something, again, more mindful. Something, again, she should also be thinking on these lines, lady, how is she adding value? She could take it up, start a business. She could take it up, and maybe if I don't know if she's a doctor, she could put content related to that. She should also have these underlying values where she should add value, where she should be helping others out somehow, empowering women around her, uplifting girls around her, talking about the taboo topics, all of that. Yeah. So, what's the use of me being educated, my husband being educated, we being actively involved and putting in so much effort in raising her? At the end of the day, she's only, sorry, but putting up mindless content.
You have learned a lot of things from your parents, which you have try to pass on to your children. But then I also feel that we learn a lot from our children as well. What is probably maybe one lesson or few lessons which you have learned from your children?
So when it comes to Alaynah and what I've learned from her, I really sort of admire how she's always very, very kind, mostly. And at the same time, she also knows where to put her foot down. So this is something that has really impressed me. I wasn't like that. I think maybe it could be a combination of me and my husband. So yeah. So with me, I was always the vulnerable child, the very emotional person, and me, I probably was also a bully at some point in time. होता है, सब बच्चे सब कुछ करते हैं. Again, I self-reflect a lot. तो अब मैं सोचती हूँ कि ये मैं ऐसे स्कूल में करती थी, ये तो सही नहीं था, और अब तो ये bullying की कैटेगरी में आता है, और oh my god, the kids I did this to, you know, or my friends did this too. Anyway, so coming back to it, I think Alaynah really knows where to set boundaries, and that is very good. Or stand up for herself. So where she's very kind and very nice to you, but I've seen that every time if somebody would disrespect her, if somebody would not listen to her, I mean, not listen to her logical self, where she's actually making a point or giving her a turn, giving her a chance, using bad words, all of that. She's very vocal about it. So this is one thing that has really impressed me. And she also says it to me, by the way, कि अगर इतना ऊंचा बोलोगी तो मैं भी तो ऊंचा ही बोलूँगी. ये पर्सनल लेवल पे मैंने आपको बताया. So मेरी अलग क्लास चल रही होती है. So it's like, you know, अगर if you how can you, she said, how can you expect me to talk slowly when you're shouting at me? Don't shout at me. Let's talk nicely, Asna. So I don't know where this came from. And to a lot of parents, trust me, ये बहुत बदतमीजी होगी. मैंने भी feel किया कि मतलब कितनी बदतमीज हो. How dare you say this to me? But then if I'm raising an empowered child, it's me, right? Somewhere behind all of this is also us, me, my husband, all of us, both her families, her grandparents on both sides. हर कोई facilitate करे, हर जगह से वो learn करेगा. So it's us, yeah.
Before we end, I would like you to maybe give some advice, if you want to call it an advice, or maybe some tips to all the girls and women out there who have been struggling and trying to probably create a balance between their work, their passion, their family, their children, their personal life, their friendships. What do you think you would like to tell them? How do they manage that?
Firstly, I'm not the kind of person who would give an advice. And I also don't think of myself like that. Like, I don't think I'm, you know, doing that great कि जैसे मैं advice भी कर सकूँ उस तरह. I'm struggling myself. I learn each day and all that. But since I thank you firstly for making me feel that way. But if I really have to give an advice, I'd say that you need to accept, or you need to learn the art of letting go. Right? This is something very important, and this is something I find extremely hard to do. But I also think I cannot continue further without learning to let go. So my idea of, you know, my house prim and proper, my kids extremely well dressed, my relationship with my husband sort of always thriving, my social life, going out, working beyond a certain point, after a certain point in time, certain circumstances, you have to let go. So with me, what I'm mindfully doing now is that sometimes I try to tell myself before getting up and, you know, shouting my lungs out, sort of, I try to tell myself that it's okay if my house is not clean today. Today, I should focus on maybe coming here, right? And it's okay if I could not watch a movie with Alaynah this weekend. I mean, I value it, that's good enough for my child. You know, you have to sometimes value yourself as well. So I started doing that only very recently. I had already just recently identified that you have to be okay or be at peace with, you know, being a good mom one day, being a good employee one day, being a good wife one day, you know, maybe divide it in halves or something, but it's all right. It's all right if I'm not looking my best today. It's all right if I sort of collapse one day. So, you know, you have to embrace all of that. So I'd really like to say this to people. I did not know this.
Yeah.
I thought the world is going to end if I quit my job. I thought the world is also going to end if I don't get promoted this year. Like, you know, wohi wala ke, am I not doing good? And I also thought that I'm neglecting my child. गया उसका तो चाइल्डहुड ही मतलब चला गया ना, जो मेरी फ्रेंड्स घर बैठ के सारा दिन स्पेंड कर रही हैं, वो तो like they were winning. So that's not true at all. So you need to understand that, and I would have been a very different person if I understood that back then. But it's okay. I think I did good. I came out good. I could have come out as a disaster though, which I would want people to avoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great
Give
advice.
yourself some. Give yourself a break.
Asna, if you have to describe your life journey,
Oh God.
although abhi journey बहुत सारी बाकी है, but if you would like to describe your life journey in one word, what it would be and why?
So for me, life is more about, or what I value more, what I value more in life is about my relationships. So if I have to, summarize or describe my life in one word, it will be very rewarding. Alhamdulillah. And why? One, because of my relationships, I'd say. And I do not want to sound delusional. And I do have problems. Me and my husband fight, and now sometimes I even don't agree with my mom. The relationships that I keep mentioning, the support system, so it's not perfect. So that I like to say the positive mindset. So I think positive mindset is what makes me say all of this today, and probably reflects a lot of positivity in my conversation with you today.
Thank you so much, Asna, for coming in, giving so much time, talking about a lot of things which probably you have never talked about before.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed your time being on this podcast.
Yeah, and which also made me, like I told you, I talk a lot. It also sort of, I got another stamp on it, like it got verified.
But thank you for coming.
No, thank you for having me. I had a wonderful time.